Travel by sea, the first and last voyage of the Titanic. The year was 1912. The railroad across the United States had already been built. The Wright brothers had already made their first successful flight. Henry Ford had already produced his first car. The Titanic, the ship of dreams, had just been built and was ready to make its first voyage from England to America with over 2,000 people aboard. The Titanic was the most magnificent ship that had ever been built. It had luxuries that ships had never had before: electric light, elevators, a swimming pool, libraries, and more. It was built to give its first-class passengers all the comforts of the best hotels. Some of the wealthiest people in the world were on the Titanic, but not everyone on the Titanic was rich. Most of the passengers in third class were emigrants who had left behind a complete way of life and were going to America with hopes of a better future. The Titanic began its voyage on April 10th. The previous winter had been unusually mild, and by spring, large blocks of ice had broken away from the Arctic region. The captain had been receiving warnings about ice, but he was not very worried. He did not realize how much danger the ship was in. On April 14th, at 11:40 p.m., an iceberg was spotted right ahead. The captain tried to reverse the direction of his ship, but he couldn't because it had been traveling too fast. It hit the iceberg and started to sink. The Titanic had originally had 32 lifeboats, but 12 of them had been removed before sailing to make the ship look more elegant. There were only enough lifeboats for about half of the people aboard. While the ship was sinking, passengers were being put on lifeboats. Women and children before men. First-class passengers boarded the lifeboats before second- and third-class passengers. By the time the third-class passengers came up from their cabins, most of the lifeboats had already left, some of them half empty. Within 2 hours and 45 minutes, the ship had gone completely down. Cold and afraid, people in the lifeboats had been waiting all night, not knowing if they would be saved or if their loved ones were dead or alive. In the early morning, the Carpathia, a ship that responded to the Titanic's call for help, arrived to rescue the survivors. Only 1/3 of the passengers survived.